Hey guys, my name's Adit. Today I'll be walking you through question 3, Be Real. All right, so let's jump right into it. So Be Real is a popular new social media app that sends alerts to users at a certain time in the day. Users then have 2 minutes after the alert to post a picture. Otherwise, their post will be marked as late. So Be Real works like this. Basically, it takes in some parameter alert, and then alert is a time, and it returns a function capture. So it's a higher order function. That's the first important thing to realize here. And you can kind of get a glimpse of that by looking at the skeleton. And this function capture that it returns to the user then takes in a time post. And after that, it will return one of three things. Either on time, if the post is less than or equal to 2 minutes of the alert. It'll return X minutes late if the post is less than an hour late, or X hours late if the post is greater than or equal to an hour late, where X is rounded down to the nearest hour. So that's a lot, but we'll dissect that in a second. And then the final thing we have to note is that the alert and post arguments are both integer values representing the time of day in minutes after midnight, and post can never be earlier than alert. So the app will first send an alert to the user, and then afterwards, the user will submit a time, a post. But that time that the user submits cannot be before the alert time. Okay, great. So I guess we can start by just skimming the doc test here. So as you can see, they created a variable today, and they set it equal to a call on Be Real, and they pass in 600. So 600 here acts as the alert time. Then that function will return another function, capture. So recall that it's a higher order function, and then capture will take in an argument 601. And 601 is going to act as the post time. So then it's basically following the rules of this. It says if the post is less than or equal to 2 minutes of the alert, then it's on time. So essentially, we're just finding the difference between the post time and the alert time. And if that difference is less than or equal to 2 minutes, it's on time. And as you can see, 601 minus 1 is 1, and that is less than or equal to 2. And so that call should return on time, and that's the exact behavior we get. Similarly, they do another doc test here with 602, and it should return on time. And that's just to reiterate the point that it's less than or equal to 2, not less than 2. Next up, they pass in 630, and 630 is, well, it's less than an hour late, and so it should just print this message here, X minutes late, where X is the difference basically. So it will print 30 minutes late. And then finally, as the final example, they pass in 730, and that is 130 minutes late, which is over an hour. And so we're going to be printing this part here, this X hours late, and it's rounded down. So 130 minutes, that's 2 hours and 10 minutes, but we're rounding down, so it should just return 2 hours late. Great. So now we could actually start coding this up now. Look at the skeleton. Notice that there's a variable called difference, and we can sort of guess what that is. It's the difference between. It's probably the difference between the post, which is when the user posts the post, and the alert, which is when the social media app asks the user to post. And so that's going to be key to most of our calculations. So we can just say the difference is post minus alert. It is the difference. Cool. So now we have an if, an elif, and an else. And notice that they basically fill out most of this for us. So let's start with maybe, let's start with the first if. So if something, we're going to return some string of some blank plus hours late. So in what situation is that going to be the case? Well, if you scroll back up, you'll see that the third bullet point has the hours late scenario. And we use the hours, and we refer to the hours late scenario only if the difference, or if the post is more than an hour after the alert. How can we possibly express that given the variables in the problem? Well, notice that we already have the difference calculated for us. And if the difference is greater than or equal to 60 minutes, that's the same thing as saying the post came over an hour after the alert. So we can just say if difference greater than or equal to 60. And if that's the case, we're going to trigger this if statement. And then what are we going to return? Well, we're going to return something hours late. What is something? Well, if we refer back to this, to the instructions here, it says X, where X is basically the number of hours late the user was rounded down. And so how can we possibly find the number of hours late? Well, we would find the number of minutes late and divide by 60. But since we're rounding down, we would have to floor divide by 60. Recall that floor division is just defined as division and then rounding down. So we would take the difference and then we would floor divide by 60. And then we're going to call string on that. And that's just to turn it into a string so we can return a string back to the user. Now on to the next case. The next case here is basically if the difference, okay, so the next case is if the difference is something, then we return blank plus minutes late. And once again, going back to the instructions, it says we only return minutes late if the post is less than an hour late. So if it's late, that means it has to be over 2 minutes after the alert time, and it also has to be less than an hour. So now notice that the first if that we did checked if it was over an hour. So we don't have to really deal with that case because the if before this else if already dealt with that. So we only have to check that check if it's over 2 minutes. And we can just do that by writing it if difference greater than 2. And that's it. And if that's the case, it says to return X minutes late, where X is the minutes late, and that is just the difference. So now that we've filled out most of the logic for this, we can sort of go back and see, well, what are we going to put in this last blank? If we read the instructions again, it says that the function alert, the function BeReal returns another function capture. And so what is BeReal returning? A blank. And so just following the instructions, we should be returning capture here. And so you can just write capture in this blank, and we have filled out the logic for this function. Anyways, I hope that was helpful, and I will see you in another video. Happy studying.